My name's Jared. I'm a junior here at Stanford. I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona. STAND is a student-led human rights organization. It's a national movement to end genocide and mass atrocities. And SSS is my other big student group involvement at Stanford, and that's Students for a Sustainable Stanford. And with that, I'm co-leading the environmental justice subgroup. Definitely, there's been instances at like some of the STAND national conferences. I remember Myra Deregapa, who is now a campaigns coordinator for the U.S. campaign for Burma, which is an organization that we work closely with. She was a internally displaced person in Burma for a number of years, and then a refugee came to the U.S. and helped start this organization. And she told her story of being on the run in Burma with her family, and it was just like this amazing, emotional, moving story, particularly when someone like that who's gone through all these troubles and things that I can't even imagine as like a privileged Stanford student who, you know, learns about human rights in a classroom and then goes and you know, works on some kind of awareness campaign with a student group. Like, I can't even imagine the things that she's gone through, yet she is so appreciative of like the work that we were doing, so that was really inspiring to me. And so that's I think one instance where it's sort of like compassion, like it goes both ways. Even like it doesn't necessarily have to be like one person from a point who's not suffering, seeing the suffering of others, but it's more of a relationship, I think. And that was just one particular compassionate conversation that I had that really inspired my work with STAND. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me growing up in terms of, I don't know, becoming who I am today was just like conversations with my parents who both work in public service. My mom works for a nonprofit children's advocacy group, and my dad works for the city of Phoenix, and we always just had sort of dinner table conversations about social justice and public service, and just like through that I think I kind of formed this like really guiding sense of values and of justice that have guided me ever since and gotten me really passionate about issues like human rights and environmentalism. There's something sort of like some deep moral value where it's kind of like, you know, you just like learn about, like when I learn about things that are happening like on the other side of the world, or you know, even something that's happening here, that it just like, it bothers me at some fundamental level when there's something like you know, human rights abuses being committed somewhere, or like climate change happening, or like species going extinct, like any type of thing that I like think is not like just not fair in the world and is like affecting people or the environment in a negative way. Like, I don't know, I just like can't process that very well. Like, I just like, it makes me really upset, and so my way to kind of deal with that is to take action on it. And so that's why I've become so involved in like human rights work at Stanford, and I think, and that's what really drives me, is because I you know, I just really care about like everything that's going on in the world. And on some sense it's sort of a very like angsty thing where it's like, oh man, the world is so messed up right now, like what can I possibly do? But it's like, that's just like, I just feel like I have to keep going. I mean, that's kind of the big question, right? Is because people are compassionate on an individual level, but it seems like the way we set up our institutions and our governments and corporations and whatever, and our ethnic groups and everything, like it's not set up in a way where it makes sense for people to get along. And I think that's why we do like tend to place so much faith and importance in individual leaders of certain movements, because they can like sort of express that compassion that the institutions can't. Reconciliation happens, and it needs to happen, and I think there have been some semi-successful efforts at that, and there needs to be more in the future. But it's something that takes a lot of time and effort, and it's not it doesn't seem like it's a natural thing to do. Whereas it seems like it's the natural thing for you to be compassionate to your neighbor down the street or in your dorm or house or wherever, or your member of your family. But I mean, it definitely doesn't seem natural for you to be compassionate towards someone who committed wrongs, abuses against your community or something like that in a reconciliation process. So there's some sort of unnatural barrier there that you have to get around. One of the things that I think was really, I mean, it was definitely a big part of my growing up too, and like was a big sort of moment of compassion for my whole family, is that my younger brother suffered from an anxiety disorder, and like it's like mostly under control now and stuff, but sort of like when we were younger he was having a lot of anxiety attacks and it was really scary, and we like didn't really know what was going on, and just sort of seeing the amount of like time and love and compassion that my parents like put into like helping him through that and like figuring out what was going on, and like you know, just like all these different things, like I mean, there was just a whole range of like activities and time and money spent and just like everything that had to go into this to like helping him through that. And so looking back on that, I'm just like really amazed and appreciative of like the compassion that my parents were able to give to my younger brother like in that process, and that I like as a family we're sort of like coming out of that experience all able to like feel compassionate towards each other after that. And I think especially when there were friends and family who came and helped from the outside too, like who like knew what was going on, like that was almost even more meaningful, because it was like, okay, they don't like have to, like we're a family, like we have to be dealing with this, right? But like they're coming in from the outside and like helping in little ways, like whatever, like picking me up after school because my family's like dealing with my brother or whatever, like somewhere else, or like making me dinner, like things like that. Those were just like, I guess, sort of the smaller acts of compassion that looking back on I didn't really like think about them as much at the time, but I've reflected on it a lot since then, and it definitely like made a big impact. So I'm very appreciative of all of those compassionate moments.